So it will be the Cassiopeia ban towards Shanks. Obviously something he's picked up a lot in his past, but something else that can just provide so much spacing available within team fights. We'll see what that first pick is going to be.
This has to be the Zeri. It has to be the Zeri.
Maybe AL trying to pigeonhole WE a little bit.
When I see teams do this, when I see teams do this of leaving it open, you hope that there's some kind of interesting answer. But I also feel like this was WE kind of throwing the gauntlet, being like, hey, we're banning Aphelios. There's kind of viewed as 3 tier 180 carries right now with, again, Aphelios, Zeri, and Lucian being that trinity. Zeri definitely a cut above the rest, but maybe AL's bot lane with some aggression will be able to get it done. Jungle going to be the other thing that is the go-to. We're still in the place where Vi and Wukong really being those huge S-tier picks. And it's kind of sad that we're only on, what, day 4 of LPL? And it feels like things are pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. That's where I'm hoping with a little bit more comfort in the meta, we get some of those, more niche picks to some
Zell,
extent.
what do you think is picked here? I wonder.
There's a cat available, and you never want to leave a cat without a home. As long as, I don't know what banning means for the cat, but the cat is not banned, so it's got to go through for the Zeri, and you got the combo for WE and for Hope and Lwandy.
And now you're looking at if they want to maybe just go towards jungle here, if they wanted to get their hands on something like a Viego, which also would work well, having that sustain behind it, being able to run into the enemy team. Even Annie, Ahri, like so many priority picks left on the table. WE not going to go towards either of those mid laners. And we're seeing a lot of teams with that shift away from top more and more that we hit on, just wanting to get their hands on something safe, reliable. It's going to have a big impact later on in the game, like a Sion.
I love the Sion pick, just setting up for that big team fight combo. A lot of pressure from that top lane later on. But now we're looking at the whittling bands here of these two teams. AL will be the first on the table, and expect maybe a little bit more of that focus towards these solo lanes, but it's actually going to be the Poppy. So a little bit of that jungle focus coming out here.
Yeah, a lot of teams putting respect on the Poppy in terms of bans. I don't think, nope, we still haven't seen it picked up just yet, but definitely something that's happening in scrims. For the side of WE, you'd expect, I think they have 2 options. Either one, you just do ban out Ahri plus Annie, and then you're both moving to that next tier of mid laners, or you ban out other generic things in the top lane that can do well against Sion. Looks like that's what they're going to do with this Gwen takeaway. They know for AL,
you know that she's immune?
Yeah, I did know that. I feel like for AL, right, already having the Lucianami against the Zeri Yuumi, they're definitely going to want to index into more mid-game action. So having some nice winning lanes up in that top side can give them prio and allow for Xiaohao to look for some aggression himself.
Like the Lee Sin ban. So all in on the jungle focus right now for anyone's legend. We do get that Ahri ban though. So splitting it up a tiny bit for WE. Got to be a little bit decisive here. The Annie comes through.
And that's about Shanks and where he wants to go. If he wants to follow the similar line of play we've seen, where it has been a lot of things like the Lissandra, you still even have things like the Syndra open, or maybe he just highlighted the Jace, right? You can look for that, look to have some power in your own laning phase, but it would mean you have to go towards an AP jungle, but no. Looks like we're going to get the mid lane Nautilus.
That would be very intense, and a couple smiles come off the board. Love to see a little bit of spice added to the end of this dish for WE. See what they want to lock in here. There is that tried and true as well, but a little bit heavy on the AD. We'll see that Jace locked in, actually.
Wait,
that's got to be Nautilus jungle, baby.
Yeah, not something I've really seen being done. Sion jungle, not something I've seen being done either. WE coming out with their debut, and you know what? I didn't like the phrase cooking, but WE are cooking. That's something that is
They're cooking
undeniable.
something. We'll see if it burns or if it's a beautiful dish a little bit later on. This will also be just the second competitive game of Pinz's career here, at least on the Annie. So far that he's played, obviously very practiced, I'm sure, behind the scenes, but competitively on stage. We'll see how he does, because I think you do need to be very, very decisive with this Annie in this team composition for AL.
Yeah, AL have gone stock and standard. AL have gotten their hands on everything they wanted. I guess barring that you would prefer the Zeri Yuumi on your side, right? But seriously, there's a bunch of meta picks to where WE now are trading it. Man, I am so excited. I'm so excited to see what they're going to be able to come up with. They really have just gone the direction of throw a bunch of meat shields in front of the Zeri, and it's probably going to work. That's the worst part. It's probably going to pan out.
Well, you come out of your first game, you got to come out swinging. You got to show everybody who's boss. And we'll see if this Nautilus jungle with a Scion mid, it seemed at the end there, will actually be the ticket for WE's first win of the split. I think there are a lot of question marks on how consistent this Team WE roster can be. They have the strengths. It's about pulling it all together. And AL themselves looking to bounce back after that tough loss first series of their split.
Yeah, they're going to need to pull it out here. And again, they've kind of opted into giving over what is viewed as the raid boss. So it's not going to be an easy game for them. They're going to need to be very proactive around that bottom side. They should be able to get some prio in mid as well, and hopefully be able to bring pinz down there and really use that burst to get going.
We'll see, especially with that kind of craziness. If you do get some practice against a Nautilus jungle, you have to be pretty proactive, I feel like, on the pick. And the lockdown is very, very heavy, and you will be able to find a lot of the lockdown to enable those kills, but it's about making sure that you can get to the late game when Zeri and Yuumi will be enabled, when they're able to take all these team fights and be the Zeri that we all know and love. As we hit the red in beautiful Xi'an, we will be seeing Team WE in their first series of the summer split taking on anyone's legend.
So I've gone back. I've been trying to find any data on like Nautilus jungle within the past few days, and it looks like Khalid played it a few days ago. Canyons played it a few days ago.
Okay.
Both of them was only like one game apiece, but it's something that a few people are trying.
Yeah, I'm interested to keep an eye on it. I will also just say, I know everybody does this when they get into a cast. I'm just happy to be back, man. Hearing the Gyos, hearing how loud the WE home Gyos were there. A little bit lacking on the AL side of things, but man, it's the LPL, and we're back. Coming off of a international championship in the MSI trophy, going over to JDG. It's just fun to be in the best region in the world here, Lyric. We'll see if, Hope can put some pressure on the new blood of AL.
Yeah, it's going to be up to him to do it. Everything going to be in the Hope basket, but I feel like Shanks also will be able to have a solid impact on this Jace. Because you look at AL's comp, a solid amount of engage, so he just won't be able to rely solely on being like a poke tool later on. But still, you're going to outrange things like the Lucian. Hopefully you can outplay zhiqiuyi at that point. And Mazel, that name at some point will become annoying. And at that point, we will just call him Uncle Cho. It's not the time yet, but I'm giving you the heads up now.
We're just getting ahead of it. Well, for now, I'm going to keep trying until we officially switch over to Uncle Cho, which I don't know about that one. We'll have to maybe talk to somebody. But we will see Heng going for that full clear onto the bottom side of the map. A little bit of opposite jungling here for both sides.
Yeah, and it does look like Heng is going the same setup that Kanavi did at MSI. In terms of rune setup, I would expect him to go towards that Even Shroud as first item as well. Really just playing to enable your teammates. And so far doing a nice job in terms of his clear speed, right? Already making his way towards that golem camp, being slightly ahead of Xiaohao. I don't know if he really should have an opportunity to gank, considering that Hope and Lwandy are going to get this wave pushed in, but maybe just sets up for an earlier reset time and get on the map first, and then he could really start putting some pressure down.
The Spider Knot gets to go for the Scuttle Crab first and foremost here. Will be just continued trades. So both teams really opting into this kind of easy path in the beginning, but that also makes me wonder how much priority we'll see around these early objectives, and especially this early dragging towards bottom side, where both teams are kind of, at least on WE side, vying for stability, on AL side, vying for some wins.
Yeah, AL definitely need to get on the board here today. I mean, then again, the nice thing for AL is they have a plethora of damage to be able to work with early. Really, any lane has set up for Xiaohao. I think you're really going to be looking towards mid with how easily pinz can get that stun landed, and then try to open up something that way, and then hopefully turn that into control towards bot side river, and then you could start really shutting down Hope and Lwandy. But anytime anyone on WE overextends, at least there's good setup for the Wukong to be able to come in.
Now we will see both junglers getting that reset off, going back to their full clear. Now we do get vision on both of them from the returning teams. We get some nice trades in mid lane as well. There's been constant pressure by Hope and Lwandy down here in the bottom lane, continuously pressing this up. And you got to wonder if Xiaohao is going to come knocking.
Now, right now, just focusing on his bot side camps. And WE have done a great job at just getting that bot side river littered with wards. One around mid, one around bot, of course, getting that Scuttle Crab. AL did
like
answer with the same play on the opposite side, yeah. But sadly, it doesn't really mean as much keeping your Gragas safe. You know, ZDZ would have a fine time being able to survive no matter what.
The mirror's a little bit different, though, because there's a control ward in on the red side blue, you know? Just a little bit different. It's not an exact mirror. It's like when you see, you're looking at the mirror and something's just a little bit off. You know, there's another dimension in there. I don't know if we're going to go that deep. Oh, my goodness. ZDZ taking a heavy, heavy trade from Cube and pushed in pretty heavily there as well.
And so far, we've just been seeing that, right? We saw Shanks do the same thing in mid, pushing pinz out of lane, Cube taking a great trade on top. So far, just kind of using their superior laning prowess to be able to stack up these mini advantages. I guess the one thing for ZDZ is he does still have TP to where Cube had already used his, so it makes sense that he was able to find, you know, the trading advantages once he did return to topside.
Can I just say, I know this is going to be a really random tangent. When the Astro Nautilus skin came out, I bought the champion just because I wanted to play AP Nautilus jungle. And, you know, I don't remember what season that was, but one day we're going to get the AP Nautilus jungle back. Not this time, though. Heng is definitely going tank. And we will actually see some skirmishes going on here between the two. Ooh, calm, cool, and collected there, Lyric.
Yeah, not going to end up falling for it in the end, but still hanging around, expecting Xiaohao to come. At the end of the day, we're just having a really stable early game. I feel like that's just what we need to come to expect now. I feel like a lot more low-kill games. Like, sure, we've had some stomps, but that's just when you have 17 teams, it's going to happen. Even teams like TS the other day kind of surprising us with how tempered they were throughout a lot of their early games.
It seems like again, just kind of feeling out how the meta is going to go, even if you get these strong picks here. As we'll actually get a replay of that vision there on the play. I'm going to be starting up that dragon, though. Should not be contested, so WE will pick up the first objective.
And this is where we really need to start questioning AL and being like, hey, like, again, what are you going to do? When the longer this game goes on, it looks like it's going to get much harder. Sure, you'll always have CC tools to be able to potentially burst out that Zeri, then take over from the lack of damage on the rest of WE's side, but I feel like they just have way too much peel for her. So Xiaohao going to steal this blue, but I feel like they really need to try and get something going mid. Again, even if you just show in mid for a pressure gank, try to generate that push in lane, be able to dip into bot side river and start clearing out some of those wards, it really would make a huge difference.
Looks like they're actually trying to posture up towards top side a little bit here as a whole,
no,
but
Mazel.
Not really going to find much in that
Mazel.
avenue. Yeah?
I have seen quite a few LPL games now, even though it's only been a few days, where teams are like, okay, we can't play around bot side, we're going to just go and punish the enemy top laner and allow the Zeri to get big. I've seen how that goes. Never goes well.
It's not pretty, all right? It's not pretty. It ends up in some sirens and, you know, some house calls. But no, I think it will be interesting how they kind of dive and duck through the situation for them, because there was a big kicker we were talking about for AL. They got draft gapped in their first series of the split, right? And now it feels like, as you were saying earlier, kind of the Exodia here for themselves, but it's about executing that against a very spicy, would you say, WE composition, and there's still questions to be had there.
Cube gonna surprisingly use ult to get back to top side. I can see he still doesn't have TP, so this means you're gonna be able to get, you know, pick up this wave and then get first hit on the next wave, so potentially could open up for a Rift Herald, but W don't even want to go for that. They're hoping to get a dive bot. Health bars aren't low, but really no mana for either Uncle Cho or Zorah to play with.
Well, if you call him Uncle Cho, then you gotta call Zorah something.
Auntie Zorah?
All right.
I don't know.
We
you
got
know, like,
Uncle and Auntie in the bot for anyone's legend.
You know, Zorah's easily pronounceable, but I'll pause on that, Mazel. Hung spotted, so I don't think anything's
That's
going to come.
Really good culling there to at least thin the wave a little bit. And zhiqiuyi is going to be able to clear that through. No dive coming through. I will say WE are playing very restrained. There are multiple times where if you're feeling a little bit hot about yourself, you're going to go into those engagements. Speaking of, AL feeling a little bit hot in the mid lane. Shanks trying to fight back, but he can't. First blood to anyone's legend.
Xiaohao doing a great job of dodging out on the vision to catch him off guard. Is Hope.
Ooh, Hope, you got to pop that lightning crash. He gets that bubble there onto Lwandy. Going to be able to heal up a little bit more. Some poke coming through from Hope, but 2v2 goes a little bit wide in the bot side. Summoner spells burned aplenty on WE's side.
Overall win for anyone's legend with the fact that they did manage to get more summoners from the side of WE. We're going to see here, War just not being exactly where Shanks needed to go, which is why he did go down. Looks like we're setting up for another potential fight.
All right, we didn't have any fighting in the first little bit, so now we got to do nothing but fighting. We will not see a contest over the Rift Herald, but they will engage afterwards to try to get a little bit of something while AL sneaks their way out of the back of the bear pit. Yeah, they're just old tanks. This is when you needed AP Nautilus. That's all I'm saying.
Not going to find anything for now, so that just will be a Rift Herald for the side of AL. I'll say the nice thing for WE is it was actually picked up by ZDZ. So now it's very telegraphed where it's going to go.
Holy cow. It's been 3,353 days since Nautilus has been picked in the jungle. It was Pomelo for OMG in 2014.
I mean, if it was back when, you know, Positive Energy were still in the league, yeah, that's been a hot minute since then. I will say, though, right, it was played at MSI, was played by Kanavi himself, but still not something you'd expect to see here today.
We also have been getting treats like the Kha'Zixes, the Rengars, things like that. I know the Rengar had a big time spent away from the LPL Rift for a little while. We'll be right back to Graces here as actually get that TP finally in the top side. So there will be a little bit of an advantage for a moment, at least for Cube. Nothing really going to be there for him to utilize on as objectives have gone down, gone through. We do have the Rift Herald available for ZDZ on the side of AL, and they've been able to control a little bit of the Rift.
And again, I feel like W are so happy about that as ZDZ is going to try to be an annoyance to stop Cube from backing, doing a great job of it.
Double proxy, let's go.
Unless ZDZ ever found a timer to make his way down towards bot and try and get that gold onto Lucian. Again, you know you're just going to set the sign behind a little bit, maybe open up Tom's side, get your Gragas a little bit stronger. But we can see the impact of the opposite, right? Hope being left alone in bot lane, already having a nice CS lead to play with.
It's working pretty well so far, and it only gets worse from here. Zeri does Zeri things. We finally get that Rift Herald dropped. It is in the mid lane. Shanks going to try to clear as much of that wave as possible, but trying to give that gold over to pinz.
So nice to see that ZDZ did, you know, move and actually give this gold over, try and find pressure somewhere else when they realize, hey, this really won't do too much towards this top side. Even if we do get ZDZ unlocked a little bit earlier and maybe he can start moving around the map, it could be very hard to find plays when WE are just playing so cautious.
And that's kind of the game plan they've had, right? They know their team fights are going to be fine. They just have to make it through this early part. They're using all this tank. They're using this U-boost start for Shanks to try to get that bridge to the gap and, you know, have Hope pop off later.
Now I just want to see some action. We're going to will it into existence. We're going to be like, hey, you know, we know there's been a lot going on, but we want more. I feel like we all deserve a little bit more. Like, if you're out there, if you're a bad day, you just need to think, no. You know what? Tomorrow could be better. Just like in this game, you look at that dragon fight, you're like, okay, there was no fight. But the next dragon, there could be a fight. So you hold on. You survive until the next fight, and then you just keep going like that endlessly. And at some point, bam, you get it. Life's great.
There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You just don't know if it's a train or if it's the outside.
Oh, no. That was not the turn. That was not the turn we meant to take. No.
So WE are going to be pounding down this bot lane tower, get some CS there at least, as well as the plays. We'll see continued proxy farming at the top side of the map, which I guess is the way that things are now. And it's, again, that reserve gameplay coming out from both. I'm just waiting for those big old 5v5s.
Good vision control up towards top side for WE in AL's jungle, so they know. I mean, now they definitely know, right? Xiaohao killing this ward, but they're getting an idea that Xiaohao was up towards this bottom side, and it looks like maybe instead of trying to go for any type of invade and steal away some of those top camps, that Heng just wants to make his way down and maybe try to spot out and catch what Xiaohao's looking to do.
Yeah, looking for the angles, as feels like has been the case this entire time. Just looking for that mid lane. Xiaohao has continuously gone to pinz to try to get him some resources, and rightfully so against Shanks. You've got to have a strong mid lane. You've got to have a strong performance from pinz. See a contest over the Chicky Nuggies. It looks like Heng was a little bit more hungry than Xiaohao this time around. Uh-oh. That's a lot of damage. That's the final chapter as well. Dodged out from that bubble. They won't be able to go any further because they have a feeling that Xiaohao is coming down to answer.
Yeah, doing a nice job to read this, but Heng Just gonna look to get away for
that
now.
combo's so dirty. I love it. You literally just E as you walk by them. Hello.
They still want to keep going though.
Yeah,
you can see pinz looking to hover down, and you know what, Mazel? We need to bring what we want into existence. We need to tell the story of the game because we already said it, right? Uncle Cho down there, he's Uncle. And if you remember Jackie Chan Adventures, the main antagonist was Shendu. So Shendu, of course, has to be Hope and Lwandy because it's Zerayumi. No one likes it. No one wants it in the game. Right now, they're in like the statue form. Before they got, how many talismans were there in Jackie Chan Adventures? I think 12 talismans.
I don't remember actually. Which is, on me.
Banger
honestly. Show. It is a banger show.
Who would be Taru? I guess it'd be ZDZ because he is playing Gragas, who at least does have a very similar build.
You just go right for it, huh? Why not?
If your childhood didn't have some form of Jackie Chan Adventures, I'm sorry.
It was a banger.
Shaolin Showdown, another great one.
pinz, though, that's a banger hammer and maybe an anchor as well. He will have to flash over the wall to safety.
Oh, he sadly gets away.
Sadly?
Yeah. Does have to burn the flash, so hopefully means next time we will get a little bit more. We'll take stock of items. Radiant Virtue picked up by Heng. Of course, that has been a really nice pickup for a lot of the tankier junglers. Even Vi picks it up, sometimes just with the cost cut that did come through. But pretty much mythic / first items across the board for both sides.
Close one in the mid lane yet again. Just trying to pull the trigger on that final chapter. Lock down and get some kills for Hope and Lwandy, but don't need it necessarily. Still have that 20 CS lead, as well as Team WE will be securing this Rift Herald. So we'll be interested where they decide to use it. I'm sure it's going to try to bust open this mid lane.
Yeah, I think mid lane definitely would be a nice way to go. I guess even with the fact of how much pressure they have in mid, if they did want to just hover their bot lane up towards top, if Shanks does manage to build up a wave, that could be another answer. They don't really need help because they've been winning their isolated lanes, right? The 2v2 big CS advantage. Sure, Shanks might not have a CS lead, but he's been able to maintain pressure the whole time. Cube has pretty much been unbothered in the 1v1 against ZDZ.
Which is exactly how we like our top lanes, right? With no action. And sipping coconut drinks, I guess, in the side lane. I will say there's some movement down here to help out ZDZ. Maybe
I gotta say,
in Cube.
On that note, because let's be real, Mazel, we don't have to talk about the game because nothing's happening. And maybe if we don't talk about the game, things will happen.
I was thinking we just start chanting fight over and over again until we either get pulled off or until we, we get a fight.
Oh, they go.
Oh, caught him inside the wall, predicting. Over the wall goes Xiaohao, and he picks up another kill for anyone's legend. Lwandy will fall as well. And you actually get a little bit of fighting here, Lyric, as Heng doesn't really have any way out of this except for the depth charge. We'll get the TP out from Shanks to try to secure the top side. But AL on the board 3-0 here.
It took 18 minutes. AL finally looked and been like, yo, we have a bunch of damage in CC. We're at the 1 item point on our Lucian. This is when we go. And they pulled the trigger. Good to see that they've done it. Good to know that all we have to do is start not talking about the game a little bit more and then things might happen. But it does mean for AL, sure, they get a dragon, they get a pick, but WE at least making nice use of the window they have with Shanks getting that turret in top side.
And again, as the time goes on in the game, even though we're very short into it, as time goes on, going to be a little bit harder for WE to lose fights, rather, because Hope will be a little bit stronger here. This is the perfect moment for a catch-out, though.
Exactly. This is what AL need to rely on, right? Picks being able to come off, hiding in fog of war, knowing WE would want to contest vision down towards that side and going that way, trying to pull WE apart because, as we just saw coming out of the replay, WE, their comp wants to group up. When you have a bunch of tanky frontliners, when everything's just built around enabling the Zeri, they're going to have power when it isn't about the side lanes and you are able to play together while still having some pressure with the fact that they have a Jace. And anytime Shanks' TP eventually is back up, that's when they're really going to be able to just pull AL around the map and try and play with their tempo that way.
That, and they also still have defensive structures up, right? They haven't lost a single tower. They've taken 2 of them, opening up a little bit of sieve of pressure here against AL. They'll be losing their turrets soon, but still looking at that poke coming from Shanks from somewhere that's defended. I'm excited to see how they try to utilize some of this pressure now that they're a little bit more free onto the map.
Yeah, AL, though, despite the fact that they're 3-0, gold still dead even. We won't count them out completely, even though it has been kind of portrayed that we're counting them out. Yeah, but they don't have the zhiqiuyi, which, you know, outdoes absolutely anything. But 2 items on Uncle Cho. This is when he is big, strong, and you can see them wanting to utilize this, right? Already poking their heads into WE's jungle, getting some of this vision down to allow for pinz to freely hit this turret.
Just a disclaimer for any of those that were not in the room whenever Lyric decided to start calling zhiqiuyi Uncle Cho. We won't see the explanation because Xiaohao, the one that's been able to facilitate a lot of the kills, gets taken off the board by WE.
And they're just going to accept that pick. They're not going to try to pivot it into anything else, it looks like. Not wanting to go for any type of rash 20-minute Baron, which it feels like 99% of LPL teams would love to do. So now you kind of just want to see them make their way into the enemy jungle. They're starting to do it now. Get some deep vision down. Maybe steal this red buff.
Sleeper agent over here.
Oh, you might regret this.
He's looking for Shanks. He does no damage. Oh, no. Okay, they're not going to chase him. They're not going to chase him. He's got a big old Timo Timbers there. They're scared.
Luckily, does manage to get away in the end, because that could have really backfired had he just committed to trying to take down Shanks. But he doesn't.
It's a damage test. Just make sure how much you do. Can I one-shot him yet? Nah. Walk away. Speaking of walking away, AL probably want to walk away from this mid lane right now. You got a grouped up WE who are feeling a little stronger. Not on 2 items just yet for Hope. But he did get that 2.5 item spike, at least for Shanks right now. A lot of that poke's going to be doing some work, and especially if it connects onto that man right there, zhiqiuyi. And so far, so good for him. He's on that 2 items. He's working on his 3rd. Really, right now should be the time they're trying to utilize the Lucian as much as possible.
Yeah, and I feel like kind of looking at both teams holistically right now. For WE, just keep playing with what you've been doing, right? Use the Jace, play out through the sides, and then just use your big 4-man squad to allow for Hope to just freely win the contest over mid-wave. Shanks will do fine in this 1v1. So for AL, they have a bit of a tougher choice. You're probably going to have to sacrifice somewhere to find an advantage. You know, that's like giving up top side and committing more members down bot, or leaving the Lucian Nami by themselves mid and bringing people down towards that bot side. It will be hard because W themselves are completely sacking the top half of the map right now. They're not sending Q up to answer that way. They're just keeping him around, making sure that Hope will be fine.
And I think this is some of the kind of safety they were expecting drafting this as maybe not as safe as Cube would want to be. He's got a lot of members of AL on him, but he makes it out there. As now you get the lightning crash from Hope. He's doing some AoE. Heng goes right back in. You still got a Hope who's firing away. He's got the rune hands now. One goes down to Shanks as the shock blast rings true. You got a TP now coming in from Cube. And AL have hit to the sand as they are running for the hills. Xiaohao, there you go, running from Hope. He will have to burn that flash, and WE stream forth in their home arena.
And this is exactly what we want. Turn to the Baron now. Make anyone's legend have to make some choices. You know, maybe you do lose the Baron. Maybe somehow pinz gets in here, or ZDZ gets in here, and they steal it. But this is the trigger pool we've wanted.
We got to see if Xiaohao can make it in time. This Baron don't go down very fast as Shanks and Hope finally putting some work into it. Xiaohao's coming over the edge. Can he get the miracle? No, Hope goes over. He's in the pit, but he's not there yet. He gets it! He steals the Baron! Oh my God! But they will chase you down right afterwards. Nice little 3-man stun from AL, but it's 2 kills straight to Shanks. And you just got to try to get out with some of these Baron buffs here for AL.
I mean, at the very least, they're going to have 2, right? They're going to have 1 on Uncle Cho. They're going to have 1 on Zorah. And it looks like ZDZ manages to escape as well. So 3 Baron buffs going down. We knew it was a flip. But hey, at least WE, they got something going. And I appreciate that, even if it did somewhat backfire. It doesn't end up being worth, even if they did pick up 2 kills. But hey, at least now you have an incredibly strong Jace. Sing it 4-1-0.
Very true. Incredible stuff for Xiaohao just to buy time in the pit for that long. I thought they were just going to clean house on him. We'll get a replay of that. Hope preemptively trying to get as much damage down onto Xiaohao as possible. Exhaust goes on to the clone.
Yeah, that was that is very unfortunate.
It was like perfect timing.
Oh, God. Wanting to do it, not expecting them to be able to get back in time. Maybe they knew that the soul laners could be there, but maybe not thinking that Xiaohao would be able to get back in time to contest the smite. Ultimately does. And now you're going to be able to see AL relieve a bit of pressure from themselves, especially in that mid lane. Right now, we're highlighting over bot, but AL were really losing a lot of those contests over mid until they were bringing, 4 members to be able to shut down the duo of WE. But now they should be able to do it with relative ease and be able to try to get some of that vision control back on their side.
AL getting a little bit of that global gold down for themselves, taking out some of those turrets, but it will be 3rd item completed for Shanks on WE. So those pokes are going to get even worse. You weave one of those between a fight, and we will see some hurt on AL's side. Waiting on that 3rd item spike still for the Lucian, but you do get a little bit more with that Black Cleaver completed for Xiaohao. And again, renewed presence from AL back onto the middle of the map.
Sadly for AL, there's just not really much to be able to try to use your Baron for, right? You've already taken all the outer turrets in the game. You'd have to look for a bit of a grouped up push to be able to try to hit more, especially some of the range that WE are playing with in the form of that Jace, and just having the front line to be able to soak to allow Hope to walk up and hit.
Ooh, Heng gonna find it though here. A little engage on the ZDZ, a very tanky boy. Won't have the backup damage. Hope was trying to find a safe angle, I would say, to try to get to ZDZ. But now, with Hope going to the mid lane, a little bit of an engage here coming in from AL, but backing off very quickly as Zorah does not have any health, and Shanks is pumping out that damage.
Yeah, we can see, right? Again, 3 items strong, 3.5 items strong. Now with the new Ghost Blade as well, stacking up those spectral shards and then getting that little burst of lethality is what we saw there as well. Definitely was capped out in terms of the shards that he had. It's always just going to be a nice thing, especially with the play pattern of Jace you have this game, where it's not just about continuously being in range to whittle them down, but throwing out that nice accelerated shock blast every now and then.
Man, he's got so much gold compared to everybody. It's actually so insane, and really has just been consistent pressure thrown his way as well. And that's why, we were talking at the beginning of this, Shanks was a standout for WE for the last little while, right? But it really was last year that he showed head and above. He was the best part of the team.
Yeah, I feel like Shanks has been impressive ever since he's come in. And then it's kind of been about how the rest of the team does around him. That really have kind of dictated what WE can do. But it feels like, hey, they finally have the pieces to be able to do a bit better. The most convincing in terms of game ones when we're like, hey, they've upgraded their roster. They were already playing. Yeah. They're going up against a team like AL so heavily, not only last split, but in their first series. But again, it also does kind of come with the type of draft that they've opted into.
The kind of wonky draft, the crazy draft, the spicy draft, if you will.
This isn't spicy.
But I just love to see.
This is like a nice...
Maybe it's like a potato soup, very starchy, very heavy. Speaking of heavy, ZDZ, is he going to be too heavy to move? It looks like he will be.
There's just so much tankiness, so much mobility on both sides. Level 16 now coming out. Still a minute 20 away from Dragon. But we can see AL using the opportunity they were given by WE, 2 members showing on bot side. But TP's coming on through.
Oh, but AL are pouncing right now on the cube. He goes right back in for that engage. Here comes Heng. The Ultra Shock Laser rings across. Now Hope's starting to put in some work here, but needs to be a little bit careful on the angle. Shanks looking for a big accelerated shock blast from the side. Doesn't really connect the damage there on the pinz, but we will see the follow-up on the ZDZ. Shanks just routing them on the side, but nobody necessarily confident to go in for the engage.
It's hard, right? Because for the side of WE, they don't just want to run headfirst in, get Hope in a position where he can get bursted out by members of AL when they're holding on to ultimates. And for the side of AL, we saw it. Cube TP's in. He's in there by himself. Still really doesn't take all that much damage. Hung there. Uncle Cho just not going to be able to do enough. We know pinz. I mean, pinz's all about burst, so same. You're not going to be bursting out a large majority of WE's comp. It's going to be all about things like what they did earlier when they kind of played with Fog of War, right? Some members lean down into that river, and then you all pounce out from a brush and find plays like that. They've been doing a nice job of sacking where ZDC's playing to overload mid at some intervals, but it isn't happening really all that frequently enough for them to find the picks that they would want.
After that dash goes through, you know you can take an engage there. You'll be a little bit more hesitant to go in. pinz going on the side, misses the tippers. They got to use that tidal wave on the other side, though. Xiaohao just wants to find a way in before his team is gone, but that depth charge knocks them all up, and pinz's down two. 2 quick kills to WE, and they are going at AL like a dog to meat right now. And in the mid lane, they will try to burst down that tier 2 tower quickly.
Yeah, they're going to make their way over. Looks like they're already going to just start heading for Baron. Ping's coming out. They're going to ignore Dragon. They're going to ignore finishing off that mid turret. Xiaohao is still up, and they're like, yeah, you know what? Screw what happened before. Let's do it again, boys. And they're at it.
Let's go. He's not spotted out just yet, but these are the tense moments you know and love. Will Xiaohao be able to delay what seems to be WE's ingress into their base with a steal of the Baron? He will have the rest of his team coming in. They will be spotted out. He's going to make it into the pit maybe. The cube is trying to block him on the side. He goes in. He doesn't get it this time, as it's Hope that secures the big purple worm. And it's WE who walk away all aces.
And now WE, they get the big objective they've needed. They've been the team that's been like squarely in control of the game. It's felt like pretty much the whole time, just from, again, the mechanisms, the scaling of their comp and how it interacts with what AL have picked up. We're going to see what happens here is AL, we're kind of like posturing around bot side, not expecting, I guess, Heng to follow up with that hook. But WE are happy to fight. At this point in time, Tidal Wave not able to stop them, and Heng with a really nice flash into a hook to guarantee that the engage comes out.
As soon as you see some of those abilities, like first and foremost, the dash from zhiqiuyi, but also the miss of the tippers. It's huge. And now pinz, he'll try to use the tippers again, but Shanks, he wants that blood, baby. And he'll get another kill. And I think you see fights go a little bit differently if some of those land, but that is blood in the water for WE. They see those go wide, they will pounce on you.
Yeah. Honestly, I definitely feel like could have made the fight a bit closer, but we're just seeing time and time again how WE's comp just so easily absorbs the damage. WE still not even concerning themselves with getting themselves on soul point. I think it's going to be a decision they regret later on, because
I think so.
Unless you just dive right now, which they will.
Just want to go straight through. Cube actually connects his unstoppable onslaught onto Zorah. They're right in the backline, and Hope has got across the wall. Is firing across the bow, and AL have no answer. Another tower will fall in favor of WE, and AL just have to lick their wounds.
And now they finally take the Dragon and realize, hey, we weren't going to win the game off of this Baron push right now, so why don't we get us in a position where we could potentially win out sooner? Thank you for that. And to go back in time
Thank you, kind
bit,
sir.
I'm happy that we still have teams flipping Barons. I know a lot of people out there get upset about flipped Barons, but in my mind, flipped Barons for LPL are like a personality trait. It just wouldn't be the same without it. You know what I mean? Like, if you have any of those friends, if you have any of those friends who just like always go to raves, and it's like, let's be real, raves are pretty much just their personality trait, which kind of me taking a shot at ravers, but it's also just facts. That's LPL with flip Barons, and you just have to accept them for it, love them for it, and welcome it anytime it happens.
I love it as a play-by-play caster because it gives you some of the most exciting moments, but yeah, definitely something that maybe has a little bit of ire from the community as a whole. We will see if they continue to try to flip these Barons, but so far WE in full frontal control right now, and they have gotten to the point where they can play exactly to the game plan. They group up, they force AL's decision. AL does not have the damage to take down the tanks, and nobody can touch Hope, and they just lose these 5v5s.
And Hope now, I mean, at the big 3-item point the series want to get to, right? Triforce, the buffs coming on through, Runon's incredibly strong, and of course the Titanic, also just making it a bit harder to be able to bring down when you have all the sustain coming out from Lwandy on top of him.
Trying to find Shanks on the side there. They can't get the catch down onto him. He does get a little bit of trade on the Xiaohao. And we'll see WE putting on the siege to this mid-inhib tower.
Yeah, sadly for them, they don't also have like a ton of poke and a ton of ways to whittle them down, but that was one of them.
Bam!
That was one of them. Hey, that's the big one. But right, when you have these like two big beefy frontliners, it is going to be a lot of this waiting up the next wave, trying to chunk them low enough with the accelerated shot glass to where you get to a point where Q can just ult in, or Heng can just throw out a Nautilus Q, and you could even just look to finish off the structure and try to find a fight.
Yeah, they've lost their wave clear. You had a little bit too much damage coming in from the poke. And WE will take the inhib in mid lane. crack open the base here. AL maybe not wanting to let them leave without a little blood on their shirts. Should not be a fight they want to take, as they should just be looking to defend a little bit. Top lane actually going to be the new focus for WE.
And they're posturing like they want to fight now, right? They know one's pushing top. They have a numbers advantage in mid, but with the fact that they're not committing to pulling the trigger, they're just opening themselves up like here to take more free damage from WE.
I said at the beginning, AL, if you're going to grab this comp, you've got to be decisive. We've seen a lack of that so far in this first game, and Zorah, a lack of health there, as that dredge line goes a little bit wide.
It was the same in mid. He was the first person to get chunked out in mid, and now here, walks right into it.
Oh my god. If that hits Zorah, he's dead. Xiaohao, the man of the hour, saving his life. pinz, he can't get the ulti. He gets Timbers finally down, but he's already gone. Xiaohao getting chunked down now as well. His cube is just taking up a storm. zhiqiuyi cannot do any damage to this front line. And on the other side, you got the ADC diff going live and well. Hope with a big smackdown in game number 1. The combo of him and Shanks for WE is truly online in this series.
Yeah, I mean, they drafted smart. They brought out some interesting picks. They played very tempered, but they knew they had the freedom to do that. And yeah, I feel like what you said, AL weren't really decisive. We didn't really see them even attempt to set up many plays in the early mid game, right? We really only had that one memorable one where all of them leaped out of the brush and jumped right onto Hope and took him down. It's like, hey, are we going to either try that again, or are we going to maybe try and be like, hey, we were overloading mid more, but we can't just overload mid then try to hit tower. We're going to maybe make our way to the enemy jungle and try to pick someone off. We're going to rotate down towards spot, which is where pinz was, and try to get someone there. And just none of those like next steps were ever implemented.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, Team W were making a sandwich. They started off with the bread, then they just put meat. They put more meat. And then they kept adding meat. And there were no veggies, and then they struck it with lightning. That's pretty much how you got to the composition for TW. But it did come off with a lot of beefiness for a front line. A couple solo lanes that necessarily were expecting, but the jungle that we were not expecting. And they were buying a lot of time. They were finding a lot of pressure on bot side, which, you know, you needed something to go right for you bot side for AL, and they just couldn't find it. So in the end, they didn't have that advantage that they needed from the Lucian and Nami.
And I guess the worst part is, right, they didn't have an advantage to play off of, but even when the game was just neutral for so long, because WE definitely had options to be able to make aggressive plays early. Like, I mean, they could have looked to, you know, play more, maybe gank mid more with the Nautilus and then try to, like, take down the Annie or things like this. They chose not to, which is fine because they know they have the scaling component on their side. They're going to be able to play around the Zeri, but it's like, okay, the enemy's not even putting as much pressure on you as they could, and AL still weren't really using that freedom to find options. So it's just another thing where AL's draft, in terms of like how many strong picks it had, was solid. Still some key learnings they didn't have from playing on that first day. It's already been repeated about the Zeri Yuumi so many times. And
but we got the one adaptation. You know, you asked the big conversation coming out of that first series they played was, you gotta get these drafts under control. Well, they had the draft. They had it. It was there. It looked pretty. It was sitting in the window. It looked really good. But you got to execute on it. I don't know how that comes into terms of buying stuff in a window. But in any case, I think AL will need to kind of find multiple angles to play through. I think the Annie for pinz obviously is okay. I think getting something that's maybe more carry-oriented would be a little nicer, just so you have that kind of two-pronged attack. Because it seems like right now, W are just shoving those two prongs right into your face.
Yeah, especially when I believe they were the team that banned out the Ahri and then like went for the Annie themselves. So they really dictated a lot of how this draft ended up going. And yeah,
again, it was the WE banning the Ahri at the last moment.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they banned.
It was the double jungle ban from AL to try to focus on Hug. He's like, no, I'm playing Nautilus. You didn't even expect it.
And I guess with the fact they already locked in the Wukong Jace would have kind of been a bit hard to pivot to. So really locking them into AP options. We have seen things like Syndra and like other carries along those lines come out. So that could have always been it. But you're right. I feel like a lot of it was down. Even if I hate letting Zera Yuumi through, I feel like a lot of it was down to the lack of initiative coming out from AL. So gonna hopefully see if they are able to change things up going into next game, especially when AL were one of the teams who had some players that were kind of like quiet achievers over splits. People like Xiaohao, who were like one of the touted players in the league, at points in a split. So kind of disappointing to see after the first string where they looked better than Ultra Prime and lost, then come in against WE and have very little gas to just move and actually contend with plays.
And we talked about multiple positions, but I think obviously the first matchup between zhiqiuyi and Hope was very interesting to say the least. Definitely felt like Hope had the upper hand with Lwandy, putting so much pressure consistently without any presence from jungle or from any ganks. So I do want to see them kind of opt into this bot lane a little bit more for anyone's legend, because that is where they found success when they did find success in some of those games, some of those moments in their first series.
Yeah. Playing more with your, and even Xiaohao overall, it's been him playing around bot lane that really has led them to successful moments in the past, than trying to play around team fights like that. To where for WE, I feel like it's really hard to criticize much because they didn't show all too much in terms of game plan, but also really didn't have to.
All right. Well, we're going to take a small little break while we get ready.